What was your scariest? A second later and I would have died moment. I passed out at work and came around in the hospital. They diagnosed a bleed on the brain and eventually decided to drill a hole in my skull and drain the fluid. Just as they were about to put me under, the phone rang. It was the head of neurology. I actually had a burst aneurysm. According to the doctor, I would have probably been dead seconds after they started the surgery. My story is a second earlier and I would have died. Basically, I got T-boned by a van while riding my bicycle. Missed me by a couple inches. Destroyed the back of my bike. And threw me into traffic. My family and I were driving down the highway when we see a stopped SUV in the middle of the highway with a family of 6 inside, and the car in front of us didn't get out of the way until the last second. My backpack got hit by a car while I was wearing it. Knocked me flat on my ass, but I was okay. Don't think I would have died. But to change things up from car-related incidents, I once left a lighter near a fire pit by mistake, and I was near it roasting marshmallows. I had to go back inside to grab chocolate, and I came back out, and just as I was walking back to the fire pit, the lighter exploded. My friend lost an eye in a similar incident. You're lucky. Not me. But my dad decided to stay for one more drink at the bar after work back in 1989. If he left before that last drink, he would have been on Old Bay Bridge, very close if not under the section that collapsed, during the 1989 Loma Prieta earthquake. Once I almost stepped on a scorpion fish. That was a close call, believe me. It was in no more than 3 feet of water in plain sand. So be careful, everyone. I was about 9 or 10, and riding a horse for the first time on a trail ride. My horse suddenly pricked its ears up and went a little faster, and a tree fell across the trail directly behind us. Checking the tire pressure on the drive tires of a semi, I was between the 2 rear axles and the front was raised on ramps. The brakes failed. I felt it shift and I slid out before it completely rolled over the ramp. I crossed the road behind a tram, not seeing the track beside it go the other direction. The incoming tram missed me by inches. What's really scary is we probably all have several of these stories that we are completely unaware of. Went to a corner store for a drink. Literally 2 minutes after I left, someone robbed it and shot the cashier and another person in the store. Edit. Well, this blew up. This is a sweet memory. My girlfriend at the time and I were walking on a semi-rural road in Santa Cruz County around 1983 or so. We stopped for a second and kissed. In that moment, a car went careening off the road just a few feet in front of us. Had we not stopped for that kiss, we would have been directly in its path. An Audi ran a red light. If I was a second earlier, I would have been instantly killed. He was driving 80 to 100, and I'm driving the smallest car in existence. Stay safe out there, folks. Realized I was standing a foot away from this guy. He was just off the path and I was walking on the very edge. After I ran back, he walked out into the path and did this. One time, my brother went camping with some friends. They went to bed, but the barbecue was in the tent and on. One of his friends died, but he lived. Making a relatively tight corner in my 2003 Toyota Echo in the middle of winter. Going slow. Out of nowhere. Black ice puts me into an uncontrollable spin. Spin into oncoming traffic right in front of an 18-wheeler. Slid across the road into the ditch. Missed 18-wheeler by maybe 5 feet. My then girlfriend, her dog, and I were driving home from the dog park. We came to a stoplight where we were second in line. In the far right lane, the light turned green. So we all started going. Then, a half a second later, another car suddenly speeds into the intersection and T-bones the car directly in front of us. Not me, but my dad was supposed to be in the World Trade Center during 9/11. On the way there, we lived quite far away. He crashed with another car and broke his arm, but the setback made him cancel his trip. If he didn't get hit by the car? There was a big storm in my city a couple months ago. I was heading off to work, and while I was walking down the street, the roof of the building I lived in peeled off like you'd peel off a sticker, and a huge block of concrete fell down right in front of me with a bunch of debris. Nothing hit me, but if I had started to walk just a second earlier, it definitely would have killed me. Giant pane of glass fell from a hotel on my way to work, damaging the windshield of a van a few feet away, cutting an old lady's forehead from a bit of glass. I was a feet away and watched as the giant chunk of glass fell. Had I walked faster, the glass would have definitely fallen on me. I stepped in front of a gunman for my ex. If that dude had been a little bit higher, he wouldn't have recognized me. I hit ice while driving my rear-wheel small truck. Started fishtailing, and thankfully ended up going towards the ditch and hit the guardrail instead of across the center line in front of an oncoming semi. He didn't even stop after. Once I was walking to school and was about to step into the street when a bicycle whizzed past me. If I was a second earlier, I could have been hit. I was riding my bike in a rainstorm, and lightning struck about 20 feet ahead of me once. About 20 years ago, my boyfriend and two of our friends were on the highway, heading to a football game. Suddenly, traffic slowed to a crawl. Next thing I knew, boyfriend jerked the wheel to the right, sending us onto the shoulder. The car behind us screeched to a stop only inches away from the car we were following. Many beers were had that day. Was walking through my backyard, and a widowmaker tree fell right behind me. Close enough to scrape the back of my leg. If I would have been walking slightly slower, I would have had my head caved in and not have been found for hours. I was walking across a pedestrian crossing, a 4-lane road, and a bus stopped for me in the close lane. So I started walking, and was looking to my right to see any oncoming cars, and as I just about passed the bus, a car came by from the left and goes right in front of me. I'm surprised it didn't at least run over my toes. This isn't my story, but an individual was part of a small trivia game, Lids Near That Bridge in Minnesota, that collapsed a few years back. He decided to have a second slice. Because he stayed for the second slice, he wasn't on the bridge when it collapsed, because that's the way he was heading afterwards. On New Year's, I buy way too many fireworks and set them off with my family. This year, I had the largest rocket battery I could legally buy. Because it looked cool as fuck. 8,500 shots. I went to light it with my glow stick as I realized it's upside down. Fuck me. 1 second more, that would have been lit and blown up all my garden and me. So I was walking to my house with my headphones on. And for some reason, something didn't feel right. As I was crossing the street, the same feeling occurred. So I looked to my right, and an ambulance was barreling towards me. So then, in that split second, I had to decide to either run forward or go back. If I had turned back, I would have died. By an ambulance. How ironic. West Edmonton Mall just left this one area and was heading to the hotel. Heard shots just as we left. That was like 7 or so years ago. Rather close one, LOL. A car clipped my arm a couple of years back as it jumped onto the pavement and knocked down a sign before driving off, knocking me spinning to the ground, and thankfully, that's all. I was practicing my driving skills on the mountain roads. I started to accelerate, and all of a sudden a deer ran in front of my car. I nearly hit it, and I knew it would have killed me if I was going faster.